Nearly 13 years ago, Kurt Thomas helped set the standard for all-American gymnasts. Tonight, the United States' very best gather in hopes of making the national team and moving on to the glory of the World Championships and the gold of the Olympics. The Winter Nationals tonight on U.S. Olympic Gold. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to U.S. Olympic Gold. I'm Ernie Johnson, and tonight, the best in U.S. men's gymnastics converge on Colorado Springs with the World Championships on their minds. Spots on the U.S. team that competes in the Worlds are on the line at the Winter Nationals. A little later, we'll profile one of the brightest stars in U.S. women's gymnastics. Erica Stokes is the subject of our Minute Maid Olympic journey. But right now, let's get to the Winter Nationals, and to call it for us, Jim Simpson and Tim Daggett.
And welcome to one of the most beautiful areas in all of North America. These are the Rockies surrounding beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado. It is here that is the home for the United States Olympic Training Center. And it is here tonight that you will see the U.S. Gymnastics Federation's 1990 Winter Nationals. And hello, everyone, I'm Jim Simpson. Well, I found out that in men's gymnastics, it's what have you done for me lately? Even though you're a member of a team and have been for 6 months, you have to requalify. And that's what these Winter Nationals are all about. Well, our gold medalist from 1984, Tim Daggett, knows all about it because you've had to do it. But why do they put pressure on team members? You make the team, and then 6 months later they say, okay, you got to do it again.
Well, the USGF basically, Jim, deems it necessary to make sure that our athletes are in peak form throughout the year. So if we send them internationally, they'll look good for us. Remember, though, the compulsories have already taken place. They were worth 60%. Tonight, the optionals are 40%. You put those together, and you have 13 of 18 new spots on the national team and our #1 ranked gymnast in the entire country. Also, Team 92 funding is available for non-NCAA athletes and is very heavy on many of these gymnast minds.
Let's be honest. We come a little bit disappointed because when we came to Colorado Springs, Kurt Thomas was here. He was going to compete. He was going to try to come back, but he's not competing.
Well, you know, Jim, Kurt made the decision about a year ago that he was going to do this comeback attempt. But I think in the interim, since that time period, he's realized that it might not be quite as easy as he first anticipated.
Well, you said the compulsories have already been held, and they do count for 60% of the total score. So let's see the standings at the end of the compulsories. KIRKSEY of Nebraska leads. VOORSANGER of Stanford is second. MINICUCCI of the New York Athletic Club is trying to win his way back onto the team. These are all veterans. SCHLESINGER of Nebraska has been on 6 teams. And then there's Humphrey of UCLA, the man who's so strong in the rings. Tonight, the optionals, we're looking for 13 members of the team to be determined tonight. Here's the #1 man after the compulsories, Patrick KIRKSEY of the University of Nebraska. He had a 9.6 in this vault in the compulsories.
Totally focused performer, and vaulting is a great event for him to start on. It's a very strong routine for him. Here's his vault, a full twisting Sukahara, and just a small step on the landing. That's a fabulous start. Let's watch this again. Good push off the horse, nice extended body in the air. The only mistake, that slight step on the landing.
And the judges have given him a 9.40 for his vault. Patrick seems happy about it. This is CONRAD VOORSANGER from Stanford as we move now to the floor exercises.
Very unique mount. Many gymnasts use that in their second pass. CONRAD has chosen to use it in his first. 1 3/4 somersault in the straddled position. That skill right there. 1.5 twisting laid out somersault to an immediate punch front is a D-rated skill.
Which means?
Of course, the most difficult, Jim. There are A, B, C, and D skills. The D's, of course, bring you those bonus points, such as risk, originality, and virtuosity. In the floor exercise, of course, you have to show the one-legged or one-arm balance skill. He'll do that right here. This is called a Y scale.
Next up on the still rings from Arizona State is Paul Beverly.
CONRAD has a dismount to finish, a double back somersault. Excellent height. Oh, and just the smallest of hops on the landing. Once again, let's look at his dismount. The double back somersault, good height, and just a little bit of a slide on his feet at the end.
9.45 the judges give him. That won't hurt. This is Cheney Humphrey of UCLA, and let's move across the floor to the high bar.
And this kid is programmed for power. Of course, last night, Jim, remember, in his first event, the parallel bars, he had a major disaster. But he battled his way all the way back into good standing by the end of the evening. His first release sequence comes up right here, 3 in a row. There's 1, 2. He's got it. Wow, this is just packed with difficulty. He goes into, oh boy. That is just a huge deduction, Jim. Oh my, he's completely rattled.
Tim, you said that he was not feeling well. At least that's what he told you. Would this be a result of it or just a bad mistake on the bar?
Well, it could very well be, Jim. I spoke with him prior to the competition, and he told me he has had the flu and just hasn't felt as energetic as he would like to. However, we all know in the athletic world that it matters not when you want to do it, but when everybody tells you it's time to go, and you have to be able to get it done. Let's watch the problem here. His hand just slips right off the bar, and a huge disaster because of it. On his dismount, just not enough energy. Lacks flip and has to take 3 to 4 steps forward.
And the score, 8.25 for Cheney Humphrey. Disappointing. Well, Tim, the first rotation is over, and Patrick KIRKSEY still is at the top.
That's right. He is leading the way from Nebraska. In second, CONRAD VOORSANGER from Stanford. Third is held by DOMINICK MINICUCCI, representing New York Athletic Club. Tom SCHLESINGER in fourth, and David St. Pierre rounds out fifth place for UCLA.
We'll be back with more from Colorado Springs after this. We are in Colorado Springs for the Winter Nationals, and we're in the second rotation. Here is Tim with a description of what you must do for successful parallel bar performance.
On the parallel bars, there are basically 3 different kinds of swings. However, the most important is done in the hang swing. This is called back tosses. And of course, a good landing.
Keep in mind that whoever finishes first here tonight will be ranked number 1 in the USA. And here's Patrick KIRKSEY at the moment comfortably in number 1 because of all the slips and falls. VOORSANGER has dropped down, and MINICUCCI is now number 2. KIRKSEY does not need a great performance to stay in first place. But of course, Tim, a good performance will solidify that hold on first place with 4 more rotations after this.
Yeah, he wants to give nobody any breathing room whatsoever. Beautiful back toss to a handstand. Another one. And there's that Healy twirl. 2 in a row. Becomes a D-rated skill. Like I said, Patrick, along with Bob Stelter, very controlled gymnast. Very planned, thought-out routines. Minimizing the deductions. His dismount, a D, double pike, and a much better landing. Just a small step forward, that will keep him easily in first place.
He is the tallest man on the national team. How tall is a tall gymnast? 5 feet 10 inches tall.
A big guy. There's his dismount, a double pike. Just holds on to it not quite enough and has to take that small step forward, but very, very small deduction.
And while we await his score, we can assure you he will remain in first place. This score doesn't hurt him at all, 9.55. Cheney Humphrey of UCLA, after the first rotation here this evening, has decided to call it quits. As Tim Daggett told you earlier, he told Tim that he wasn't feeling well. He's been diagnosed as the flu, and after his performance on the high bar, Cheney has decided that's it for the night. He is scratched. Tom SCHLESINGER of Nebraska. We told you he was born just down the road here in Boulder, Colorado. He is now in Colorado Springs. He's on the pommel horse, where in the compulsories had a 9.30. We're in the second rotation, and he is in fourth place.
I'm showing us some 1 pommel work, a few slight form breaks,
with his legs. Now he'll travel the horse in flare. And once again in flare. The USGF has mandated new rules for these gymnasts, and they have to do a tremendous amount of difficulty. And you're seeing a much longer routine from Tom than usual. And up to the handstand, a little bit of a struggle, but basically a good exercise.
Tom Schlesinger, the man who wants to be a doctor once his gymnastic career is over, looking for a 7th spot on a national team. He's got 6 years experience.
Here's Tom's dismount here. Swings up to the handstand, a little bit of a pirouette, and of course, a stuck dismount.
The judges have given Tom a 9.35. At the parallel bars, Bob Stelter. You haven't seen him before. He's a member of the Nebraska NCAA championship team. He has never been on the national team. He's been on the development team, but not on the national team. So this is a big moment for Bob, this event here in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, quite a few of our top performers have fallen by the wayside thus far, and if Bobby keeps going, he'll sneak right in there. He is always right on the bubble for making that national team, just falls short. But he's had an excellent meet thus far. That skill right there is called a Healy twirl. If you do 2 in succession like that, it becomes a D-rated skill for most difficult, and you gather bonus points for that. Bobby doesn't really knock your socks off anywhere, but he's very steady in his gymnastics. Everything is very planned. There's a double pike.
Oh my.
And
all, until the dismount.
All of our leaders today seem to be having some major problems. Many of these athletes, of course, don't train in this type of altitude, and we're seeing a lot of the mistakes happening on the dismounts, and that, of course, is where you are most fatigued. Right here, you see he just doesn't have enough rotation, and he comes in short.
One question, have you heard complaints about the altitude?
Well, yeah, quite a few of the gymnasts, especially on the floor exercise and the parallel bars where endurance is important, they've said that it's bothering them a little bit. But, you know, I competed here, Jim, and it's something that you just have to deal with.
Here's Bob's score, 9.00. Rotation number 2 is over, Tim, and I can say it, he's still at the top. Patrick KIRKSEY.
That's right. Patrick is still on top from Nebraska. Dominic also still in second place from New York Athletic Club. CONRAD VOORSANGER from Stanford in 3rd. Tom Schlesinger from Nebraska in 4th place. And David St. Pierre in 5th from UCLA.
We are back in Colorado Springs for the 1990 USGF Winter National Gymnastics Championships, determining 13 spots on the national team. Currently 4th, here's Tom Schlesinger, a 6-year veteran at the still rings, where in the compulsories he had a 9.45 in day number 1.
Tom having a very good meet so far. Nice kip to an L cross there. Of course, on the still rings, the top gymnasts are performing not one but many strength parts. That's a requirement right there. He pressed to a handstand. He'll also have to swing to the handstand. There he showed us another strength part called an inverted cross. A little bit off balance there, but saves it quite well. And he's having his problems on the still rings also. A little bit short on all of those handstands. His dismount. A double twisting double, a little bit short on that as well, having to take a step forward. I tell you, Jim, from looking at the athletes, they all seem to be a little bit more fatigued than they should be at the end of their exercises. Let's take a look at Tom on the rings here. This is his dismount. 2 flips, 2 twists, not quite enough rotation, has to take that big step forward. And that is one tired guy right there.
We're just in a 3rd rotation, Tim, but it seems to me that KIRKSEY would have to lose the number 1 spot. No one is going to overtake him.
That's for sure. Patrick is in very good position right now, and it would take a disaster on his part.
His score, not that impressive, 9.25 for steady Tom Schlesinger. Now let's go to Tim with a description of the horizontal bar.
On high bar, the best gymnasts in the world are doing a lot of releases. The more, the better. They also have to do giants in all different swings. Here's that giant. Now here's a stalter. I'll change my direction. It's called a blind turn. Once again, a pirouette. And of course, the dismount.
In the third of our 6 rotations of the evening, we move to the horizontal bar, and there he is, our leader, Patrick KIRKSEY. A 9.75 last night on the high bar, and here he is again.
And this is a place where Patrick most likely will have no problem at all. Very steady on this event. His first major release. This is a Tkachev with legs together. D-rated skill. He'll do it again, but he'll straddle his legs this time. Like I've said all night about Patrick, he's so controlled. You can almost see him thinking on the bar, and that's what it takes at this level of competition. No mistakes. Nice stalter work in his dismount. A double layout with a full twist. And a good landing. Finally a good landing. A step, but nevertheless, no hands down.
With 3 more rotations to go, I would think it's safe to say that Patrick KIRKSEY is going to wind up #1. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Well, let's take a look at this release skill. He lets go of the bar, travels completely over. That's a Tkachev. Now his dismount. Very aesthetic looking in the air. This is 2 flips with a stretched body. Second flip, he does a full twist, spots the ground right there, and just a little bit of a step on the landing.
Patrick continues to get consistent scores, another 9.50. After his performance on the rings, Bill Roth would like to do much better in the vault. He did not have a great vault in the compulsories last night. He had a 9.20, but still very much in contention to be again on our national team.
And this is one of Bill's best events. Watch this. Handspring laid out front with a half twist. Incredibly difficult vault. Just landed a little bit under-rotated. Had to take that step off to the side.
Looks like he's limping a little bit as he heads back up the runway.
Yeah, he's got some problems with his knees. You need a tremendous amount of speed to get this vault around. His body stays completely stretched in the air. Half twist. It comes in a little bit short. And, of course, the big step off to the side. And that smarts a little bit when you come in that low.
I'm feeling a little low, Tim. I said that Bill had a 9.20 last night in the compulsory. Had a 9.80. Tonight's score, 9.60. CONRAD VOORSANGER started the evening in 2nd place after the compulsories. Had a terrible time with that 8.5 in the pommel horse in the last rotation. Here he is on the still rings, but still in 3rd place. And an odds-on favorite to make our national team once more.
Well, remember, we've seen quite a few gymnasts this evening that have run out of steam towards the end of their exercise. CONRAD showing us some nice strength work with a cross position and a planche position. Those are double whippets or Yamawaki's, D-rated skills when you do them with legs straight or piked position, as CONRAD just did.
Our next competitor.
This is a double layout somersault. No problem there. Just a little bit under-rotated. But good job for CONRAD.
VOORSANGER had a 9.45 in the compulsories on the still rings and is looking to improve that with this performance.
Take a look at this double layout here. Very pretty position in the air. And just a small slide forward on the landing.
Judges liked it. A 9.55 for CONRAD. In our 2nd rotation of the evening, remember, VOORSANGER had a terrible time on the pommel horse with an 8.5, and Dominick MINICUCCI, in your picture now, has moved into 2nd place ahead of him. Here he is on the horizontal bar, where last night in the compulsories he got a 9.55.
Here's Dominick's release skill. Tkachev right into a Ginger, a little bit close, but he really dealt with that quite well. In-bar stalter with a half turn. Very difficult. Now these are called eagle giants, a requirement on the high bar. Dominick's dismount, a double twisting double layout, nowhere near enough rotation. Stumbles down to his knees, puts both hands on the floor, a minimum of a 5/10 deduction there.
But I would still say that Dominick is on his way back to recapturing a spot on the national team.
Our point of view camera shows exactly what goes wrong here. Watch, his feet don't come up far enough. He lets go of the bar, has nowhere near enough rotation. Watch it from this angle. Not enough toes over the bar, so his body isn't flipping fast enough, and the knees and the hands go down. A huge deduction.
And a reflection is scored, Tim. 9.30 for Dominic. 6 rotations in this competition tonight. We've come to the midway point, the end of 3 rotations. And again, Tim, I throw it to you the same way I did before. Patrick KIRKSEY still is at the top. He's been there since day one.
He has had a fantastic competition thus far. In second, however, CONRAD VOORSANGER from Stanford. Dominick MINICUCCI, still a solid 3rd place. Tom SCHLESINGER from Nebraska in 4th. And a Kyle Asano from Stanford is now moved into the 5th position.
We'll be back with more from Colorado Springs, but first, let's go to our studio in Atlanta.
All right, thank you, Jim and Tim. More from the Winter Nationals still to come as Patrick KIRKSEY tries to hang on to that lead here on U.S. Olympic Gold. Hey, did you catch the Olympic news yesterday? The U.S. basketball team for the 92 games in Barcelona will be coached by Chuck Daly. He already has back-to-back NBA titles with Detroit, and in 92, coaching a team that will feature NBA players, he's got Barcelona gold on his mind.
It will be interesting to see ultimately who ends up on the team, who are the assistants, and I'm looking forward to all phases of it. Again, a great experience, and I think one that with the pro players and knowing the mentality, they'll want to have some fun with it. They'll treat it very professionally. They've taught me a lot about the game, and ultimately I think they are interested in one thing, and that's winning and bringing back the gold medal.
And speaking of that Barcelona gold, gymnast Erica Stokes has her sights on 92. She's the focus of another Minute Maid Olympic journey, and that comes your way next. And welcome back. While men's gymnastics is our focus tonight, we want to take a few minutes and introduce you to one of the brightest prospects on the women's side. 14-year-old Erica Stokes looks like your basic American teenager, but she has made the necessary sacrifices to become a world-class gymnast, as you'll see in this Minute Maid Olympic journey.
In gymnastics, champions are made, not born. For some of America's best, their goals could not be achieved without being embraced by the skills of the master himself, Bella Caroli. As years go on, new stars are on the rise. 14-year-old Erica Stokes is one of those outstanding young performers, with her sights set on being a champion. She started in gymnastics at the age of 2, and by 10 moved to Houston, Texas to train with the best, Bella.
Erica was another young lady who came many, many years ago. I even don't recall, how long time she's been here, but for a long, long time. Came from Kansas and started out on our little junior team and worked herself as a tremendous competitor. It's one of the type of the gymnasts who can always produce more in the competition than usually you expect from her to produce.
Erica finished second in the all-around at the U.S. Olympic Festival in 1989 and was 4th all-around in 1990 at the U.S. National Championships. A little lady with tremendous work ethics, her regimented schedule is one that even other athletes would dread. She wakes well before sunrise, and while most high school teenagers are sleeping, Erica is heading to the health club for weight training. Then, on to Caroli's gym for just the morning portion of her workout.
Erica shows a very positive, very sturdy, and at the same time, an attitude which does not show, I'm out or I'm gonna lean back and so on. No, not that type of person. Working hard, trying to make it, and that's almost a guarantee. She'll be again up over there where she wishes to be.
I just think to myself, I know I can do it, and I just think positive every day and just work as hard as I can.
Erica, that sometimes amazes me, not only just in her drive and determination, but in every aspect. Her ability to comprehend and the adult way she handles a lot of situations.
That maturity is key to her competitive nature. But after all, she's still a teenager who enjoys her time away from the gym. These things make her life more balanced, and for Erica, a chance to focus when necessary.
I want to make it to the championships in June and get a good place on the team, and then Goodwill Games, World Championships, and then 92 Olympics.
Her involvement in gymnastics has made us all change in the way we look, you know, whatever endeavor we attempt. We've all had an attitude change, and I think Erica was probably directly responsible for that change.
Erica realizes that reaching her goals is the best way to thank her family for their sacrifices. And for them, she is in constant search of excellence.
Since I was 2 years old, I've been doing flips in gymnastics, and since I've been doing it that long, I don't just want to throw it away. I'm sticking with it.
Yes, indeed, Erica Stokes sticking with it as her Olympic journey continues. Meantime, for the U.S. men, the road to the World Championships runs through Colorado Springs. We're at the midway point in the Winter Nationals with Patrick KIRKSEY holding off CONRAD VOORSANGER for the top spot. Let's send it back now to Jim Simpson and Tim Daggett.
Currently in second place as he started the evening, CONRAD VOORSANGER of Stanford in the vault.
Good controlled run. Excellent push off the horse and a good landing. Not quite as difficult a vault as he should be doing. You'll notice in the air his body bends at the hips. That's called a piked position. And if you pike on this vault, it lessens the difficulty quite a bit. You see, he doesn't quite have enough height, little bit of a hip flexion, but a real good landing, which will help tremendously.
Well, it's not a great score, Tim. 9.40 for CONRAD. Remember, 13 members will make the national team tonight, 13 of those here, and David St. Pierre, who's been a member of the national team for the last 2 years, is in the upper 50 percentile. He is number 6 at this moment as he moves to the rings.
And a disastrous last event, however, on the pommel horse. David had major problems. There's an original skill, though. Dave's the only gymnast I've ever seen do that. It's actually an Olympic cross done in the L position. Very light gymnast. That's that double whippet or Yamawaki skill. He swings out of that into another whippet and then swing to a handstand. His dismount here, a double twisting double and a great landing. Good routine for David St. Pierre. That should put him right back on track.
Another one of those names to mark down as a sure shot for the national team, David St. Pierre.
Now watch this. A double twisting, double somersault, 2 flips, 2 twists, and just a small hop on the landing. Great job.
And one of his better scores of the meet, 9.65 for David. Now let's move over to the pommel horse, and here's young Kyle Asano out of Southern California, where he goes to junior college. He's in 5th place after 3 rotations.
And if he maintains this position, it will be the shock of the competition. Out of nowhere. And he's working very well thus far, traveling across the horse. Here's his Thomas flare with a spindling motion, turning his body the O, and there's a mistake right there, Jim. That'll be a minimum of a 3/10 deduction. It's too bad because a lot of difficulty in this exercise. His swing to the handstand, and of course a stuck landing. Let's take a look at the problem. Traveling the horse quite well in the flare position. He will turn his body opposite to his circle. That's called a spindle, and he just gets a little off balance.
And gets an 8.75. Patrick KIRKSEY's next up in the floor exercise. Let's have Tim Daggett tell us about the floor exercise.
On floor exercise, you have to cover the entire area. The most important thing, you have to tumble. These are called flip-flops. You also have to be able to stop. This is called a scale, a balance skill. You'll notice that you see a lot of flexibility. This is a split. You also have to press to a handstand. Floor exercise, probably the most demanding of all the events.
Patrick KIRKSEY of Nebraska is right on track, not only to make his 4th consecutive national team, but to walk out of this Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs as the #1 ranked gymnast in America. Here he is in the floor. He's led all the way since the compulsories.
And no problem for Patrick all evening long. This is his biggest skill, a full twisting double back. Now what makes that so interesting is Patrick does that without grabbing his knees to aid in his rotation. Makes it much more difficult. There's a big mistake for Patrick. That was supposed to be a full twisting laid out front there, a D skill that he may need. Not the type of thing that's going to knock him out of contention, however. That, of course, a flexibility skill called a side split, and his press to a handstand. Even though Patrick made that mistake, he was so calm, the judges may, in fact, not even realize that he wasn't supposed to do that. His dismount, a double back somersault. He's got to nail it. And a great landing. That is what Patrick KIRKSEY does so well. When he's got to do something, he nails the landing.
He's the tall man from Georgia who goes to the University of Nebraska, where he's a senior in finance, and right now is aiming for the #1 ranking in America.
Now remember, the same full twisting double we've seen before, but the reason this is much more difficult, you notice his arms are not on his legs, and you need to generate much more power off of the floor. Here's his dismount, and he just plants this one. You can almost tell by the look on his face that he knows he's going to stick it cold.
Well, after all said and done, Tim, I see the score for Patrick KIRKSEY. It shocks me, 8.85. He still leads, but by a narrow margin over MINICUCCI, but why the 8.85?
Well, let's take a look. Midway through Patrick's routine, this is his second pass. There's a front semi step out. He'll do a handspring front with a half twist, or a Barani right there. He meant to do a full twist, needed to do a full twist to get the D-rated skill. Without that, he's missing a requirement, henceforth the low score.
He's still our leader, but not by much as we go to rotation number 5. We'll come back with more from Colorado Springs after this. We're back in Colorado Springs for the 1990 Winter Nationals, and we're now in the next to last rotation, the 5th rotation. On the parallel bars, Conrad VOORSANGER. He started out in second, slipped to third, and he is very close to both MINICUCCI and KIRKSEY at a 9.45 in the P-bars last night.
This is probably Conrad's best event. Beautiful skill right there. Diamond 1 1/4, and then he pirouettes back into the bar. Extremely difficult. Looks so effortless on the parallel bars, and a beautiful pike double dismount, just a small hop on the landing. He's right in there.
It looks to me, Tim, as though we're going to go into the final rotation with 3 men, that either one of the 3 could come out as the top man in the rankings.
Well, KIRKSEY opened the door, and now Conrad has a chance with 2 big scoring events. Parallel bars here with a beautiful pike double dismount. Just a small hop on the landing, but an excellent routine.
An excellent score also, 9.90. Let's find out what it takes to do a good exercise on the pommel horse. Here's a bronze medalist in that exercise, our own Tim Daggett.
On the pommel horse event, we're basically looking for 3 different elements. The single leg scissor movements, you need to do 2 of them. Also, double leg circles. You're swinging horizontal to the floor and in all different parts of the horse. However, the top gymnasts in the world right now are encompassing a traveling element that goes from one end of the horse to the other. Sometimes they do it in flair, and sometimes they add a spindling motion. It goes kind of like this. Just like that.
Here's Dominick MINICUCCI, only about a 10th plus point behind KIRKSEY for the lead.
As we said during the telecast, Patrick KIRKSEY would have to make a mistake to open up the door for somebody else. Dominick MINICUCCI could be that guy, working very well. This is an extremely difficult pommel horse routine. He's traveled from end to end, showing us that spindle work where his body is turning opposite to the way he's circling. Now he'll go up to the handstand. That's a D-rated dismount. Very difficult. That's going to be a big scoring routine for Dominick.
He loves a pommel horse. Had a 9-7 in the compulsories last night, and that might be good enough to really challenge Kirksey to see who's going to be ranked #1 after tonight.
Now let's take a look at his dismount. He will hop behind his back and land right in the handstand. Very difficult and done well.
And the judges have given him his best marks of the meet, a 9.75. Bill Roth of Temple, earlier this year in the U.S. Nationals, a perfect 10 on this apparatus, the horizontal or high bar. He's currently ranked 8th.
And as Bill has had quite a few problems today, this is one event he is most likely to sparkle at. Oh my.
Oh.
This just is not Bill's competition, but he still has some incredible skills coming up. Watch this one, Gaylord 2. Done as well as can be done. Beautiful laid out inverted giants. He'll do one more major release right here. Watch this, toe on reverse X.
Oh.
Way in the air.
I tell you, it has been that kind of weekend at the training center, and I think Bill has hurt himself.
Oh boy, this is not good for the U.S. team. He is one of our up-and-coming hopes, and
remember, Cheney Humphrey has already had to withdraw, but because of the flu, let's see what happened to Bill Roth, who earlier this year had the 10.
Let's take a look at this release skill here. This is his first one. No problems here. Look at the height there. Beautiful Gaylord 2. Here is his second release. This is a toe on to a reverse head. Tons in the air, way up there, and comes down hard. No mat underneath him.
Well, he limps off, but he did finish out his routine. And Bill Roth is one of those that you come to a gymnastics event saying, I want to see Bill Roth on the high bar. We did, and probably one of his worst performances, and he comes off limping. Patrick Kirksey of Nebraska with that oh-so-slight lead here in the next to last rotation.
CONRAD VOORSANGER in this same round has scored a 9-9 on the parallel bars, so Patrick needs a big routine here.
He had a 9.75 in the compulsories.
Working very well. Difficult exercise thus far. Boy, this guy just doesn't seem to buckle under pressure. Dismount to the handstand. Great job. Best routine I've seen Patrick do. He added a couple new elements. Very difficult skills. Came out very well. Let's take a look at just how tricky this can be on those pommels. A close look. Your hands have to land exactly where you want them or you're off the horse. Now we'll take a look at Patrick's dismount here. This is total Patrick Kirksey style here. Not a deduction to be found.
His scores remain consistent. He remains in first place at 9.55 for Patrick. Steady, steady Tom Schlesinger started out the evening after the compulsories in 4th place and has not budged from there. He is still in 4th place, and here he is on the parallel bars.
And Tom is very at home on this event. His best event in gymnastics right here. Won many titles. Has a nice slow and clean style. That's a Healy twirl. Done immediately. D-level skill. Very pretty VC. Takes the time to show all the elements off. Now watch these beautiful back tosses. And he needs to hit this dismount. He's right in the thick of things. Double pike and a great landing. Just a small hop. That's a big scoring routine.
As we said earlier, looking for his 7th consecutive year as a member of the national team. And has done nothing to dispel the fact that he will be after tonight.
Beautiful back tosses to the handstand. 2 in a row. Much more difficult. And his dismount, a double pike. This is a D-rated skill. And just a small slide of the feet on the landing.
Good score for Tom, 9.60. At the end of the runway of the vault, David St. Pierre of UCLA. He is currently in 5th place.
battled back after a disappointing pommel horse with an excellent ring routine, back in the thick of things. David will be doing a laid out full twisting Sukahara. Beautiful push off the horse and a great landing.
Love that.
Best vault we've seen all night.
David St. Pierre looking for his 3rd consecutive year on the national team.
Now, because vaulting is basically a dismount, the most important thing is that you stick it. And David certainly does it there.
The judges liked it. He gets a 9.65. One more rotation, the final one to go, but Tim, at the end of 5, things are a little bit closer at the top.
That's right. Patrick KIRKSEY needs a great routine to hold down that first position, but he's still there right now. Dominick chasing him in 2nd. CONRAD VOORSANGER from Stanford, a solid 3rd. Tom Schlesinger from Nebraska maintaining that 4th position, and David St. Pierre still holding the number 5 spot.
CONRAD VOORSANGER, as we begin the final rotation, he's got a great chance to take it all, although KIRKSEY is still our leader.
Reverse hecht with legs together. Very difficult. And here's his major skill. It's called a VOORSANGER. He's got it. Wow. Beautiful. That's CONRAD's very own skill. Oh, some problems. He didn't need that. And he did not need that as well. My goodness, after such tremendously difficult skills, to have a break like that. Oh, such a shame. He had it all within his grasp, and he just basically threw it away midway through that exercise. Too bad.
VOORSANGER with a chance to leave here at number 1 will not do that, but of course he will obviously make the team yet again. He's an outstanding young gymnast.
Now let's watch this release skill. This is his own skill, toe on, reverse hecht staying on the front side of the bar. Fabulous. His dismount, a double twisting double, 2 flips, 2 twists, and a little bit over.
And CONRAD has his disappointment, a score of 9. Here's Tom Schlesinger hanging in there, also on the high bar, at 9.25 on this apparatus in the compulsory.
A lot of concentration needed here. Very difficult event, especially when you have to let go of that bar. There's one release, full over the top. Oh, he was supposed to catch that on one arm, Jim, but he's covered very well. Right into his release. Boy, Tom is taking no chances whatsoever. Held on a little bit long to make sure he caught that bar. These are German giants. Not seen all that often. Fulfills a requirement on the high bar. His dismount, a double laid out somersault, and a pretty good landing.
And Schlesinger is in excellent position.
Let's look at this release skill. Perfect angle to see that Tom plays it a little bit safe, holds on extra long just to make sure he gets that bar. And the finishing touch, a double laid out somersault, 2 flips in the laid out position.
And the judges liked him. He got a 9.65 for the very consistent Tom Schlesinger. But the most consistent man of all is this man right here, our leader. Number 1 in the USA after this meet will be decided on this event, the still rings. Patrick KIRKSEY, our leader. And a little later, MINICUCCI on the rings also, just a bit behind KIRKSEY in the standings. The final rotation.
Tremendous pressure on this event. A lot at stake. That's a back roll to an L cross. Very difficult skill. And a kip right back to another L cross. Patrick's picked up a little bit of swing. I'm sure a little bit more than he had hoped for. We'll see if he can control that, get a handle on it. He's still swinging quite a bit here. Giant to a handstand, and he kills most of it. Excellent job. Another giant, and his dismount, a half in, half out. Stuck it cold. Good job for Patrick. A fairly conservative routine, but when you are going into the last event, that's maybe the way to play it.
Played it safe, and it looks like it may pay off.
This is a giant through the handstand, and a full twisting double somersault, not too difficult. But that's important right there. You got to stick it, and he did.
Now the pressure goes from KIRKSEY to Dominick MINICUCCI. Patrick KIRKSEY has done nothing but lead, and MINICUCCI's the only man with a chance to catch him. Dominick MINICUCCI needs a 9-8 to take over the lead from Patrick KIRKSEY. I don't know if he's done that on the rings before, but that's what he's got to do if he's to unseat KIRKSEY, who has led from rotation number 1 in the compulsories.
Right from the get-go, but Dominick had basically the meat of his life thus far. That skill right there, a Maltese. Now, if you're looking for 9-8s, it's a tall order, and you can't have any mistakes at all. Slight bend of the arms there. A little bit too much swing of the rings as well. He's working fairly well. I don't know if we're seeing a 9-8 routine here, however.
No matter what happens, MINICUCCI has won his way back onto the national team with an impressive performance.
Nice whip-it swing to a handstand. And I believe he's doing a triple back somersault here. 1, 2, 3. And a collision with his coach, Fred Turoff. And that certainly will not get a 9-8 on the still rings.
Which would mean that Patrick KIRKSEY unofficially is the #1 ranked American gymnast.
Well, you know, I really gotta like Dominick's style here. Going for it on the last event, a triple back, incredibly difficult. Bounces right into his coach, Fred Turoff there. But extremely successful meet for Dominick MINICUCCI. Once again, winning his way back onto this national team.
Obviously, he did not get the needed 9.80, a 9.25 for Dominick, but he's a happy man. He is back on the team. The Winter Nationals are over, and congratulations to Patrick KIRKSEY. He is #1 ranked in American gymnastics now. MINICUCCI is 2nd, Schlesinger 3rd, VOORSANGER is 4th, and Kyle Asano sneaked into 5th. Let's go down to Tim, who's got the winner with him.
Well, Patrick, you know, you led throughout the competition, but there was one spot during the floor exercise you had a little bit of a problem. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, it was on my second pass, and basically I'm doing a front flip with a full twist, and I only did a front flip with a half twist. I basically balked. But I didn't land on my head or anything, and I just tried to cover it up as best as I could.
Well, once again, congratulations. Great job, and back up to Jim.
Thank you, Tim, and so ends the Winter Nationals here in Colorado Springs. Patrick KIRKSEY leaves Colorado Springs #1 ranked on the American team. The next 5 spots are protected because these men are outstanding and are performing elsewhere. Chris Waller of UCLA, Lance Ringnauld of the Gold Cup gymnastics team, as well as Trent Demas of that same team. Scott Keswick of UCLA, and Mark Warburton of the University of Nebraska. Now those who won their way onto the team here: Tom Schlesinger, Conrad VOORSANGER, Kyle Asano, David St. Pierre, Jeff Lutz. You can look down the list. When you get to number 13, there was a tie: Kerry Houston and Jim Knopp. So they've added 14 men to the team here, not 13. It's been a great meet. I'm Jim Simpson for Tim Daggett saying good night from Colorado Springs and the 1990 Winter Nationals.
All right, thank you, Jim and Tim. Patrick KIRKSEY of Nebraska leads the qualifiers for the World Championships at the Winter Nationals here on U.S. Olympic Gold. And I'll be back with details of next week's show right after this.
U.S. Olympic Gold, a TBS Sports exclusive, has been brought to you by Minute Maid. Join Minute Maid in supporting America's Olympic hopefuls.